Hi, welcome to Atlantic Graphic Systems. My name is Julia Messick and I'm the showroom manager here in Columbia, Maryland. Today we're going to be showcasing the Morgana SC7000 digital die cutter. This digital die cutter uses a tangential crease and a drag knife in order to make products. Here are some examples of what we're going to be making today. I have an AGS box kind of packaging and a door hanger just to show you some available products that you can make on the SC7000. Let's take a look at the machine specifications. Going through the specifications of the machine, the max paper size is 13.38 by 27.9. The max stacking height of the loading area is 4.13 inches, and it can do 42 inches per second. In terms of the power consumption, it's two 110 outlets, and then we have a network drop connected to the computer. You can do an additional network drop to the actual cutter, but the computer and cutter talk via a USB. In addition, the compact area of it, that delivery drawer that you see, can actually slide in and be stored for a smaller footprint. For the feeding area, the guides are adjustable, and then you can see here we have that vacuum belt as well. So now we're going to get into the screen just to do a quick overview. This first screen here is for your tool, pressure, and settings. This screen here is for CCD control, basically plugging in a job via USB stick. You can change the origin of the cutter and modules themselves if ever needed. You can turn the lights on and off if you have to do any changes. You can also adjust all of your settings for the feeder if you're having trouble feeding or anything like that, or the vacuum, or even the stack height. And then in this setting here is all of the calibrations or anything that might be needed down the line for service or just general maintenance can be done there as well. And then we also have the option to test cut. I have no paper in there now, but test cut is how you're going to measure your speed and force very quickly. Lastly, you can see your camera, as well as you can feed media and eject it very easily on the main dashboard. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be running two different jobs, packaging and door hangers. Before we get into operation, let's go over pre-press and setting up a job. So getting into pre-press, this is our server station. This is the main software. We're going to get into Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the original file just to kind of show you guys where I started. So you can see here, I have all my print data on one layer and my cut data. So we're starting from the beginning here. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. Then I'm going to go ahead and select that stroke that's on all of my cut data. Select the same one to make selection a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and group it, move that to the top of my layers, and easily put that on a separate layer. So for ColorCut Pro, you do want your die line cut data on a separate layer. So then in under File, you're going to see all your different ColorCut Pro settings. And first we're going to look at Preferences. Here is where you're going to put your dimensions of your paper, portrait or landscape, the registration mark area. This is going to be for ColorCut Pro to look for those registration marks. And then as well, you can do rear side creasing and cutting. So just which way you're going to be flipping it is going to be important for when you ever use that function. When we have everything ready to go, we're going to go ahead and go to File, Page Marks and QR Code, and we're going to go ahead and add it. You can manually add that number if you want to overwrite our existing QR code or just kind of go with what's selected. Once I press OK, it's going to ask, hey, do you want to open up in ColorCut? For right now, I'm going to say no because I want to show you guys what that looks like. So as soon as I add it in there, you can see my QR codes and my registration marks. So in order to send that data to a printer, you're going to go ahead and toggle off the die line and send that over to your digital printer. And we can toggle back and forth, and I can show you that we have my die line on a separate layer ready to go. So once I'm ready, I can go ahead and say File, ColorCut Pro, and we're going to take it into that software. So you can see it sees my die line, it sees my QR codes and registration marks. On the right side there, you can see that we have the red die line, and I have that assigned to cut. Now we can change that later on. I'll show you that in ColorCut Pro. But for right now, I have it as red, and I'm assigning it to cut with the designated pressure and force. In order to change that, we can go ahead and go into settings, and I can actually show you how I'm doing it. Right now, I have one substrate I'm using, 80-pound cardstock, and I'm using the speed and force I've put on the machine itself. If you ever want to have automation and have different substrates assigned to different colors, you're going to want to go ahead and check those boxes down there and say, hey, let's use ColorCut Pro's Speed and Force because you have already automated that for that specific media. It's kind of a pain in the butt to go back and forth and change the machine settings. That's why they automate that feature here, and you can actually do that with the different colors for your layers. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of ColorCut from Adobe Illustrator, and I'm just going to open it up just plain as can be. Just so you can guys can see the menu in the dashboard. So this is without a file in here that I've loaded from Illustrator. This is just the software. You can see on the right side I have all these different colors, CMYK values that correspond to layers and strokes that you would put in Adobe Illustrator. You can see I only have some assigned to color, but I can assign a yellow to a different substrate for creasing. I can assign green for maybe paper, 80-pound for cutting. These can all be customized to your workflow. And last panel in here is going to be that productivity tab. This is where you're going to go ahead and assign copies, make any changes as needed to how your dashboard's going to function. So we can do continuous, we can do single copies. You're going to have your dimensions down there. And on the right side is going to be where they're looking for those registration marks. So before, when that was in Adobe Illustrator preferences, these have to match up. After we get the job set up in prepress, we can print out our pages with registration marks and QR code for easy automation. Once I have my back loaded, I'm ready to go. I can go ahead and go in the software and start production. So there are two different ways of running on ColorCut Pro. We saw that you can send it right through Adobe Illustrator and have it just load in that way, and you can go ahead and scan it. Just going to scan those registration marks of what you have loaded in. However, you can also just have ColorCut Pro open on the server station at all times and go ahead and press Scan QR Code. Now you can have a variable data pile stacked up, and it's going to scan that QR code each time. You can manually put it in, or it's going to read it with that camera. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. I have door hangers in now. It's going to scan all of those and pull up that job automatically. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate for you running that scan QR code function. So when I go ahead and press it, it's going to feed my first sheet. It's going to scan it and automatically pull up that die line that I had saved to that QR code. I'm going to go ahead and crease and cut it. You can see I have progress on my computer as it's going, as well as on the mini screen as well. So this feature is great if you have pre-press in another room and you're just having an operator doing it. Once everything is made and those die lines are repeated and used over and over, those QR codes can stay the same. So all the operator has to do is stack that pile high, have it scan QR code, and it's going to be constantly pulling from those files that pre-press had created. So it's very automated in that aspect and allows for not as much operator intervention. So after you've done the automated sequence of scanning QR code and it pulling that cut data, I'm going to show just running continuous from Illustrator, running the packaging and door hangers. Today, we went through the Morgana SC7000 and ran 2 different jobs using ColorCut Pro. If you're interested in this machine, contact us for a demo today. Thank you so much for visiting our virtual showroom here at Atlantic Graphic Systems.